Hey, and welcome to a pre-recorded episode of Colourisma. My name is Shar, and today I decided to preemptively go ahead and uh, pre-record this because I have a lot of stuff going on and I was afraid I would get interrupted tomorrow. So I thought it would be just best if I could just get something out rather than nothing. And here we are. So on top of it, I am working on this piece here as a commission, and I thought, well, we'll do two birds, one stone. I need to work on a drawing while I'm chatting, and I need to work on this drawing, so it works out pretty well, I think. I'm finishing up some of the details on this figure here, this little kitty cat. Um, Overall, can show you the full image here. Memorial tribute piece, and working on this one in particular here, this little kitty. So, I am working today mainly because one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is exactly why I'm doing the episode this way today, because I was thinking that my RV woes would be, if not fixed, at least temporarily patched up and all done last week, and that didn't happen. And now I'm in another week of flux where uh, people can kind of come and potentially want to help out at some point, but I never know when. So, and signs and stuff don't always actually make it so people listen. So, I'm just in this stage of RV repair where I'm trying to get some things situated, and it's been extremely difficult to even find the help that I need to be able to get some of these things done. If you're been following along, you know I've had some AC issues over the past few years, and I thought, you know what, I have the means to potentially get a new AC. Let's just go ahead and do that, get it installed. I thought it'd be super simple, quick, and easy. And I can't even find anyone to hand my money and have do it. um, I'm very particular about the things I get done to this rig. I want it to be a good long-term investment. And I am worried when people say they'll try or they'll take a crack at it, because I'm like, no, I don't want any more cracks on this machine, on this rig. As few cracks as possible, please. So I really like to have experienced people try to work on it, and I knew someone in the area that could come to me and could potentially do it, but I got confirmation that they're actually no longer in the area, so that is no longer an option at all. And so I am just scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. Um, and I can definitely relate to this in art because to say I have expectations that have not been met is an understatement. I feel like that is a constant state of affairs with me and my art career. And mitigating that and not necessarily being okay with it, but dealing with it long term is super exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. Um, it's a process, and it's something that we all probably deal with at some point. Unfortunately, some more than others, myself included in that one. And it's something that I don't think people talk enough about in the art world. It's like they always want to talk about once you're already there, once you already have this success, once you're living the lifestyle, once it's your full-time job. But there's not a lot of people talking about when you keep trying and trying and trying to make it your full-time job, make it work and be, the thing you do with your life. And and it just not working out, despite, all your best efforts and trying and everything. And it's kind of like my situation with the RV, in the sense of like, um, I've even asked for help a lot on the art journey, and it's been very difficult to find solutions for the kind of problems that I tend to have, which is like finding an audience. If everybody could just find their audience, then I feel like we could be artists pretty easily, in the sense that all we had to do was create the work we wanted, and then somehow it would find the correct people that would be the most enthusiastic about that artwork. Then problem solved, right? Like, you wouldn't have to learn marketing, you wouldn't have to mess with trying to create ads, you wouldn't have to mess with all the boring stuff that you don't want to mess with in dealing with art. Um, and that would be super wonderful and fantastic. And I actually honestly feel like we have the means to do that, but where's the money in it for social media, right? Because half the reason why they exist and all of their platforms are the way they are right now is because making it hard for creators to find their real audience is super profitable. There's a lot of money in that. Because the algorithms are very good at knowing what you like, right? As the consumer, they're very, very good. Some better than others, but in general, they're pretty tailored to your specific interests, and sometimes it even feels creepy how specific they can be, and how well they can hone in on what it is you're interested in. And so it should be super simple for you as a creator to get your work in front of those people who like those super specific things. And yet, here we are. We have to pay for the privilege of having that happen for us. And it's, to me, very frustrating, because it mostly just feels like a game of chance, and like it's almost like playing the lottery more than actually just having a career. And this isn't really so much art related, is just a general social media rant. I find it super frustrating. I think there's a certain level of success that they do maintain when certain accounts get to a certain point, because if everybody just got to a certain level and then they threw up a paywall that was like really super obvious, then I feel people would be onto it and then they would leave. And they have left certain social medias a lot, but ultimately it's just enough to keep you hooked in, just enough to keep you so you want to hang around. And because you keep seeing it happen for all these other people, so it should be able to happen to you, right? Like, that's how it should work, right? Um, but yeah, so I've had an issue where like I said, like with the RV, I have a problem. I know exactly what the problem is, and I somewhat even know what the solution is. I just need help with the solution. Like, I need help with ideas for audience generation and ads, and what should I do to be able to create that? And like for my RV, I even know what model of AC unit I want. And I've been looking up install videos, so I know in general how to do it. And I think one of the things that happens when you do talk about this is that people, they want to help. They feel frustrated that they themselves don't really know the answers. And in a way to feel like they're helping and yet somehow kind of offload your own problems back onto you, they tell you, just learn how to do it. You should do it. You should do it. You can do it. it's fine, you do all of it. And it's like, well, there's people who go to school and get, degrees in marketing um, there's a certain trade to learn how to be an electrician and know how to install that kind of level of stuff and make sure you're doing it correctly. Um, and it's a lot of work to just do it as, I guess it would be considered a hobby, because it's not like I'm going to do it all the time. Well, the marketing's more so, but for something like a random install that I don't plan on doing for maybe another 30 years, not so much. But um, it's just frustrating, in my opinion, because uh, you already have whatever schedule you have, you already have it. Like, it's really difficult to just figure out a way to do something that you're not super qualified or super great at. Not saying you can't learn, it's not that it's impossible, it's just that it's a certain skill set that takes a certain amount of time to get good at. And in that process of getting good at it, you're missing out on kind of the whole reason, like, you want it just done right in the first place. Like, I don't want to learn how to install an AC unit, I just want it done. And done by somebody who kind of already knows how to do it. And the art channel, as far as the example I've already provided, is a little different in the sense that I don't necessarily want to, how do they say, reinvent the wheel as far as like marketing goes. I've looked up so many different kinds of every different kind of social media advertising, how to, you know, garner an audience on all the different kinds of social medias and everything. And a lot of it requires almost a team. Like, you need 30 people to be able to organize together to create a whole entire ad campaign, and then put it together, videographer to put it together, and then sound department, and then you got to license some music so you can use that, and then you got so it gets very complicated very quickly, and yet somebody just wants to flippantly tell you you should just do it. And there are ways to advertise that don't require all of those kind of things, but it does take time and effort, and it takes that time and effort away from your schedule when you either want to figure out the best method the quickest, so you're not wasting a lot of time on methods that don't seem to work or maybe wouldn't work at all, and you don't know until you try it, unless you were to say get guidance from somebody who's in the know and knows, the current trends and the best way to advance forward in the industry that you're interested in. Um, it would just be easier with the right help, And I think part of at least my frustration in all this is it's been very difficult to find that help. Even when directly asked for, even when um, you don't have a checkbook to flash around, but you are willing to pay for it, and yet it's still just extremely difficult. And I've noticed a lot lately that the trend for the self-help people kind of is that uh, they tend to do things that basically still have it so you're doing all of the work, but they're just like giving you the super small like guide work to work from. When really you want like a one-on-one, like really intense session on how to specifically tailor it to your stuff, they'll just hand you a PDF, and that generically applies to a lot of different people, and say, here you go, here's all the answers. And you're just like, that's still not what I was looking for. I wanted tailored advice and, specifics. But yeah, it's been kind of difficult. And if you're in that same boat, I completely understand how frustrating it is. And if you are still in that boat, even though you keep asking for help and you keep trying to look for answers and you keep putting in the effort, but it just isn't working out, I will say, I won't say hang in there because that's like super generic, lame advice. That can be also very frustrating to hear when you are right in the middle of struggling. But I will say there are a few tips that I have developed over time to alleviate some of these frustrations. I will say, as I tend to say on here, feel your feels. If something is bothering you, don't pretend that it's not. Don't hide from it and bury it down deep. Like, if you're frustrated by whatever, either admit to yourself or someone that you trust or just a random vent account online and just say so. Just admit that you're frustrated. Um, feel your feels. Like, it's it's completely normal and valid for you to feel frustrated by things not working out and things not seemingly to ever go your way. So if that's really kind of bugging you, then that's something I think that you need to do right from the beginning, is to just admit that that is really bothering you. Don't try to minimize it. Don't try to say, well, you know, there's something else worse happening to someone else somewhere, so my my concerns aren't valid. It's like, no, they're valid. If no one else tells you that, I will. Um, the thing is, we all have life we have, and while you can be empathetic and try as hard as you can to help other people who are in different situations than you, it doesn't help anyone for you to just minimize your own situations to the point where you're getting so frustrated that you can't even help people anymore because you're too mad about what's going on with you. So I feel like it's important just to say, like, shit sucks. Understand that. Accept that. Don't try to pretend that it doesn't. And that's pretty much step one. It's been a difficult lesson for me to have over the past year. I have seen everything in so many different ways happen to so many different other people. And I wish I could help. I wish I could do more. I wish I was more whatever, like, had a position of power that could actually do more and help more. And, it's really frustrating to see your friends and family go through stuff that you don't have to. And, you can only be at so many places at any one time to help. Uh, my thing is I hate hearing about things that happen and there's like either no way it happened on the other side of the planet, or there's no way for me to be there, COVID or whatever. Um, and it's just so frustrating to hear about. And then you think, for me anyway, I think, well, okay, so what if I was there? Like, suddenly I would have made everything better? Probably not. So then I feel bad about that. So it's like a nice little cycle I got going. So try not to do that too much. Try not to, play hero in your head too much. Easier said than done sometimes, when you just want to help and make everyone's problems go away because they don't deserve it. Um, but ultimately, it doesn't really help anything, and it perpetuates a lot of issues. And Uh, just makes you feel bad at the end of the day, honestly. It doesn't really help, and it doesn't really. It's one of those shoulda, coulda, woulda. You could just sit there and think about all the things that you could have done or would have done or everything, and it's okay to think about that for a minute, but don't dwell on it too much. So that said, once you're done kind of thinking things through and feeling the way you feel and understanding that those feelings are fine to have. On the practical side of things, for me, I know it's really helpful to have a plan. And I've discussed this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again that even if you're not really sure what you're doing or you're not really sure that any of the plans that you might have might work, it's worth at least attempting some kind of plan, putting something together. Uh, Even if it immediately falls apart right away. I bought a journal the other week, like a to-do weekly planner, and I filled out that first week like a champion, and then the second week went mostly blank. And I'm on the third week, and I'm starting again on Monday. So that's pretty much how that goes for me. Maybe you feel the same, but it's definitely one of those things where all you can do is try. And when it doesn't work out, for me, the best thing is to just kind of reset for a little bit. I spent the weekend with my family playing with the puppy and trying to potty train her, and that was a whole other that could also get tossed into this conversation about uh, subverting your expectations on reality there. Um, but yeah, it's helpful to have a plan. At least for me, it's very dopamine inducing to come up with a plan. So at least ride that dopamine high as long as you can. It's very fun to come up with ideas for plans for me. Anyway, it it just makes me feel like accomplished and like I'm doing something. Doesn't always work out, like I said, but I think the next thing after that is to analyze like why it didn't work out. Was it too ambitious? Most of the time for me, that answer is yes. And if it was, then how can we tailor that ambition to something a little bit more attainable? Um, for me, I think I can do way more in a day than I really can, or that I really have the energy for, or that can really, successfully get done in a day. And that can be frustrating too. It's a different kind of frustrating because it's like you want to work on stuff and you want to do all the things and you want to switch tasks all day because you feel like you're spending too much time on this one thing, and it can be really frustrating to just do the thing as long as it takes for it to get done. Um, so if that is the case, then I think it's just important to get a baseline for the things that you do want to get done, and then get kind of not necessarily time yourself, but just take as long as it takes, and then just record that. Like, okay, I thought I could get this painting done in a week, and it's now the second week, and I'm still working on it, but I'm almost done. So, really, probably a week and a half to 2 weeks is more typical or realistic for me. And then moving forward, when you have another painting of a similar scope or complex detail level or whatever, then you can kind of think to yourself, oh, okay, you might have that first instinct to be like, oh yeah, that'll just take a week. And then you might want to like reset and be like, you know what, I did think that before, but it actually took way longer than that. So actually, I'm going to schedule it in for 2 weeks. And for me, me and plans and schedules are like oil and water. They do not match. They do not blend. I've managed to make my whole life in such a way that I adhere to a schedule as close to like my natural as possible. So like I work a second shift job because getting up at like 6 a.m. sounds terrible because I'm usually still awake at like 6 a.m. rather than like having had 8 hours of sleep by then. And I think that's also important. Like understand who you are, what comes naturally to you, and actually just accept that about yourself. Like if you've never been a morning person, forcing yourself to be a morning person, don't like why? Why? Just because everybody else says you have to? Like there are ways around it. Like you can get a job where you work nights or you work second shift or you work part-time and you don't you work the afternoon instead of the morning. Like there are ways around it. I think there's a lot of schedules that are built around morning people, so I get that it's hard to avoid. And if you have like loved ones who have either are a morning person or have schedules that you can't exactly change, like maybe they're enrolled into a school system and they do mornings, and you know what, that's just what you gotta deal with. I would say, I don't know, I wanted to say that maybe as much as possible still try to stick to your schedule, but that just is probably impossible. So I don't want to really suggest super unhelpful advice like that. You probably have more advice on that than I do. I kind of try not to step super outside of my uh, own situation because I am generally just going to give bad advice. So yeah, if you're listening this far and you're not a morning person or you're not a whatever time of day person, but you are forced into that spot in that slot of being working in a certain time of day that you don't really want to, what kind of tips do you have like to manage that? You can leave those in the comments. But that said, back to kind of the just general thing. I would just, try to figure out, am I working as close as I can to what my ideal plan is? And, it does take a lot of effort to come up with that. I do think part of that effort is to assess like what it is that you are doing naturally. Like if you just really love, hey, drawing animals, then maybe part of your plan should be working that in somehow. If you are someone who's really predisposed to drawing landscapes or people or machinery, then probably doing something that's not any of those things is just going to seem miserable to you. And if you're thinking, I'm just going to do this until I can really do the thing I want to, um, I mean, maybe it'll work out that way, but you could also just spend a really long time just doing what you don't want to do when you could potentially just do the project, like your dream project, and just do it. Like, it might kind of suck that you may not get the paycheck you want from it, but at the same time, at least you would just be doing what you love instead of just doing what you have to or feel like you have to in order to eventually someday maybe do what you love. So I just think it's really important to assess like what it is you actually want, your high in the pie sky kind of dreams, and figure out if the path you're on is going to get you closer to that, or is it actually going to move you further away from that because you're so busy distracting yourself with whatever this thing is, this other thing that you have to do, that's going to take up all your time that you can't even work towards that actual other thing you want. So, all that is to say, once you have a plan, then what happens when that plan gets sidetracked? Like last week, when I thought A, this image would be completely painted, and B, I thought my RV would be fixed by then because I was told it would be, and then a bunch of stuff came up and it ended up not being the case. So, that said, um, I think a big important step in all of this is to adjust your expectations. And that is super difficult to do. And it is kind of even hard for me to say because sometimes I think a lot of people want to say that and they say it very easily, but then when you kind of think about it, for me anyway, it kind of makes me mad to hear that because sometimes I feel like your expectations are actually fine. Like when you put the work in or when you expect, when somebody says something, then you expect them to then do it, or um, just a lot of different things like that. Like, I think it's reasonable to expect things of people when they say they're going to do them. I think that's a reasonable thing to expect. And when that doesn't happen, I think any feelings you feel from that are completely understandable. Now, I'm not saying you should just do whatever you want about it. I think, I think that part you got to do, got to be the bigger person in a way and, you know, deal with it in such a ways that don't hurt anyone. But at the same time, I think it's just really important to you know acknowledge that it does suck when that happens. Like it is really super frustrating when either promises are broken or other things come up, and your thing has to get delayed, or your spot in line gets taken, or just any variety of things that you expected a certain thing based on all evidence pointing to the fact that that's how it's going to play out or that's how it's going to happen. And when that expectation gets subverted, I think as quickly as you can, it makes a lot of sense to adjust your expectations. For me, in regards to like getting this RV fixed, because I can't find anyone who I could just like hand a bunch of money and just be like, do this. My expectation is I might just have to go another summer with the situation that I've been having, which is I have a little window unit, window AC unit, and it's been working for 2 years, and it hopefully will work for a third year, and that might just be my solution. I also ended up developing a roof leak, and instead of going to this like factory place that might be able to completely fix up the roof for probably more than I really have to do so, um, I will probably just have to put some of that Flex Seal on it and just call it a day and hope that holds for another year, or 6 months or whatever. And that is just a part of adjusting expectations. And in that way, uh, I'm not sitting around being annoyed. I'm not super frustrated anymore because the expectation is I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And that is kind of the easiest expectation to be okay with, because in a certain way, um, hey, you've already been doing that. You've already been doing this thing, so you can probably just do it a little longer, hopefully, anyway, depending on the situation, of course. But uh, it does prove extra frustrating when it's going on maybe the like 10-year mark where the things haven't changed. I've definitely have situations in my life where that's the case, and in my art career, it's definitely going on like 2 decades now, where it's not gone the way I liked. Uh, so it's a little harder to swallow that idea of, oh, I know, let's just keep doing the same thing we have been doing and expect different results. I think that's also an important consideration, is to understand that when you're doing the same thing you have been doing, I think the only thing that's kind of makes sense to expect is that the same thing is going to happen. So I keep bringing up the RV thing because it's like the easiest example where with the least amount of like emotional consequences for me compared to my art, which is a lot more emotional for me. Though it is more relevant for this channel, it sometimes can be a little hard to talk about because it is like so personal and I do have a lot of frustration built up around it. So if I have a lot of RV related examples, that is for my like own self-care. So just play along with me here. But for the RV example of, expecting the same thing, so I have you know, an AC unit that works through the window and it cools okay up until about 85, 90 degrees outside, and then it stops being super great. It'll generally keep it below 85 inside, but when it gets up to like 100 degrees, it can't keep up. It just can't do it. Um, so it can be a little frustrating to deal with that. My computer stopped working super great in that temperature range, so that's also kind of frustrating. But knowing that is coming for the summer, at least I can like mentally prepare for that, right? Or I could prepare to potentially do a lot more work at night. So at least then it will be a little bit cooler, and maybe I can, I don't know, clean or something during the day when it is super hot, or just rest during the day or something when I feel like it's way too hot. Um, but point being, I can work around it. Um, it's not super fun. It doesn't make me feel terribly better, especially when the answer is so simple and that I just want somebody to fix this who knows what they're doing. But that said, I have been dealing with this for a few years now, so what's another year, right? Especially after last year. Didn't want anyone around or inside my vehicle at all. But yeah, so I think that's another thing that you can just kind of keep in your mind is just that as much as you can, just understand what it is that is happening, and as best you can adapt to that situation and understand that that's just the way it is right now. And as frustrating as that is, um, that's just how you're going to have to keep dealing with it. Um, if you can, I mean, if you can just get your problem solved, or it's your issues are way easier to solve than maybe mine or something, then I guess a plan. I can't super relate to that scenario, by the way, but I'll take a stab at it. My guess is then figure out the best way to get that scenario done as soon as possible. So you have a lot more time and energy moving into a direction where it's a lot more. Lost my train of thought there. Basically, that you can have it so you can worry about problems that are bigger than like little stuff that could take up a lot of time, but you're like avoiding it because you don't really want to do it. Well, I kind of have the mentality of I'll never feel like doing this thing I don't want to do any more than I already don't want to do it right now. So if I have the time and energy to do it, maybe I'm already in the middle of doing it, but if I just spent a little bit more time at this, then I won't have to mess with it for even longer. I'm thinking a lot of RV examples when I'm saying that. Trying to think of something that super okay. A couple years ago, I was renovating my RV, and I was doing stuff with painting, and it was super hot. It was like 120 degrees inside the RV while I was working. I'm very heat tolerant, so I could tolerate it, and I wasn't really moving all that much. I was just like literally painting the walls with like very minimal effort in the sense of I wasn't, moving my arm a lot or anything. So I could tolerate it. But that said, I didn't feel like getting really into like the little crevices or peeling out this little bit of wallpaper I probably wouldn't notice later anyway. But I was like, I already am here. I'm already doing this. I'm never going to feel later on like I'm going to want to do this project any more than I already don't want to do it now. So I might as well just do it right now, do it correctly now as well, than to kind of half-ass it and then end up having to bring out all the paint again and then repaint it again. Just do it correctly now, this one time, and then I won't have to mess with it more later. So you can use that in a lot of different kind of aspects of your own life as well. Uh, however that will, benefit you. There's a lot of art examples too, but using that kind of methodology, um, you might as well just do it correctly now, draw the anatomy correct now, because, messing with it at the rendering stage is going to be a lot harder and you're going to have to do a lot more changes. So you might as well just look up the references and take the time that you need to right now at the beginning than to wait until later and it turns into a giant hassle. So you can bring it into art pretty easily in that way. So beyond just kind of like coming up with a plan, and then if that plan doesn't work, then readjusting your expectations. Of course, I think, I don't know if I made this an official point, but of course, ask for help. My thing, though, in the kind of the whole point of this video is that that you already asked for help, and either you aren't the help that you need isn't accessible to you, or it can be just basically that's it. Like the help you need is not accessible to you. And so what do you do then? That said, just really do your research and make sure that you actually are in that scenario, because I've also had it where I thought I was in that scenario and then I just talked to somebody about what was going on and they're like, oh, just go here or just try this or just do that. And it actually was the solution. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, I wish I knew that because I could not find that answer. So, just chat up people who might be in a position to know things that you don't, and potentially kind of see around that solution and see if that helps at all. You don't want to completely overwhelm everyone around you with every problem you might ever have, but definitely it's worth keeping people in the loop because it can be helpful. In general, people do want to help each other. They do want to assist one another. They may not always know the best way to do so, but they do want to try generally. And if they can be helpful, typically people will just they'll try, It may not work, and that's actually something I've been dealing with is like a lot of times people want to try help, but then it's like you put the effort out to ask for the help, which may or may not be a challenge for you from the start, from just that side of things. And then on top of it, like they wanted to help, but then they didn't know the answer or didn't have any way to help. And so it's like you put the effort into asking for help, which, like I said, might have been hard in the first place, and then you got nothing for it. So that's just one of those things where you just got to get better at doing the thing. And the thing that you got to get better at in that case is just asking for help. And like I said, super difficult, easier said than done. But it's one of those things that it does get a little bit easier when you do it more. I will say the thing happening where nobody has any answers, that doesn't super get easier. um, especially when you ask a lot of people, and consensus is that like there is no solution, which just seems silly. Because at least in my case, I know there's solutions because there's people do it. If I wanted to do something that no one has ever done before, like fly with my own two arms, and like no one could actually do that, then I could understand the kind of like there is no solution to this. That's just a pipe dream. But when my thing is like, oh, I want an AC and unit installed, or I want a art career that pays like, $1,200 a month. That seems doable to me. That seems very doable. um, and for nobody to have the answer to those questions does feel like, come on, help me out here. And if you have those answers, by all means, please go ahead and post those answers in the comments. I think everybody will want to know that, and I will have you on the show and have you tell everyone those answers. Share with the class, please. But yeah, so those are just some of the things that I know I personally struggle with, and I feel like a lot of people personally struggle with. And it's definitely a challenge to know in some way that what you're asking for and what your expectations are not actually all that high. They seem very reasonable, and for them to continually not get met, it is super frustrating. And like I said before, at least I think I said it, if I didn't, then I will absolutely say it now. um, like, go ahead and be frustrated by that. Like, um, don't try to downplay it. Don't try to say like, "Oh no, it's fine." Like, ugh. Um, because trying for a long time to get something to happen for you, and then it not working out, super sucks. Like, super sucks. Especially when you're making all the effort how to do, and you're continuing to learn and grow and try to be a good person, and blah blah blah, all this stuff, and it's still not working out. We have like this thing in, at least anyway, America, where it's been beat into our skulls since like childhood that, oh, all you got to do is work hard. It's all you have to do is work hard, and then everything will come to you, and it will be like magic, and like everybody will notice all your hard work and notice that you're a good person, and it will just work out for you. And for so many people, that is not true. um, there are so many people that do not have that opportunity, who don't have a lot of stuff, and to be told like, oh, all you got to do is um, and especially all you got to do is insert generic, super generic, non-specific advice here. That is so frustrating, to be told that your whole entire life, that all you have to do is, and then you do that, and then nothing comes of it. I know a lot of people my age felt super swindled when all you had to do was go to college and get a degree, and then you get a great job as soon as you're done. That was what we were told. And then we were warned that you want to do that because you don't want to end up like the fry boy, do you? Or the fry cook, do you? Um, and then later, people would tell us, "What are you, too good to be the fry cook?" And it's like, yeah, you told us that your whole. Okay, anyway. Um, point being, there's been a lot of mixed messaging going on in society, keeping things way too super simplistic, making false promises, outright being lied to, um, generationally. Um, and that can all be super overwhelming to deal with. I think we have come to a tipping point where a lot of people feel disenfranchised and have realized, like, oh, wow, this is actually way worse than I thought. And it's so much. It's so much to deal with, and I think it is important to be aware of what's happening and to follow the different things that you're passionate about and that you care about. But it's also important to understand your threshold for those things. And I don't think it's necessary to like broadcast this online, but I think it's important to also like take a break. If things are really getting to you, if you're just to the point where everything is so frustrating that you're just getting so burnt out and things are so not working your way, um, I'm not saying take a vacation because I don't know anyone who's like able to just go off and take a vacation, especially right now still in the middle of a pandemic. Um, but you know, it can be beneficial to take a break from whatever it is that you had been trying to strive for. Maybe reassess: is this really what I want? The answer may be yes, and you can come back to it with renewed vigor after sitting on it and not doing it for a while. That's usually how you know it's the answer is yes, because even when you're not working on it or not actively doing it, you're still thinking about it. Even when you're trying to not think about it because you're trying to take a break from it, blah blah blah. Um, just be very intentional. I saw something today that said like maybe we don't need necessarily a purpose in life. Maybe we just need to be very intentional about the things that we do in life. And if it feels like you're chasing your tail, then potentially, you know, take a break, stop for a bit. I took all of 2017 off as a break, so it's the other thing is I've gotten advice to do that myself, and I'm like, I did, I did, and you have to understand not everybody knows your journey and knows where you are on it. So when you are venting about it, it's kind of good to not necessarily spew your guts all the time, every time to anyone you talk to, but definitely bring up the things that you think will be relevant to the conversation if you're trying to solicit suggestions for help or anything like that. Let them know, like, hey, I already did that, or I tried that. And that can be frustrating too. Been there. I felt like a broken record when people keep suggesting everything that I've tried to do, and I'm like, yep, 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 done that, done that, done that. In that case, if somebody is actively trying to help, I will kind of just spew at all the things I've tried, just because I don't want to also feel like I'm just a negative Nelly and just completely rejecting people outright and completely saying like, oh, I don't, nothing you can think of can possibly help me, because that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you haven't thought of something in a while and it actually was just like bad timing when you tried it the first time, so maybe now it would be a better time. um, I don't have any personal examples, at least not art related, where that has been the case. I know for like my part-time job, there's definitely been instances where I have forgotten about solutions. Like I know the solutions, but ADHD and crap, and I just forget that like, oh yeah, that was a solution. I knew about that, but I just forgot in this scenario that's when I should try that solution. And it can be something like that. I realize that was a super generic thing, but whatever. I'm trying to have it applied to like the most potential examples as possible. But yeah, I'm hoping some of this helped. I am almost done, not almost done, but I'm almost done with this kitty, and this kitty's done, and now I'm working on this kitty. But yeah, so I hope some of this helped with you and the frustrations you're going through. If you are interested in a place to chat about your art or you want somewhere to go, I do have a Discord link in the, I guess, what do they call it? The doobie-doo below, and on YouTube anyway, if that's where you're watching this. And if you want to join that, then you can be a part of a little community of people that are super cool and help each other out and listen to each other. And if you are interested in helping support Colorisma to be able to get out the word to more people and to grow our community, then you can check out patreon.com/colorisma as well. And Colorisma everywhere on the internet. So you should be able to find everything there. So I appreciate you taking time to listen today. Be nice to yourself, be nice to others, and I hope you have a good one. Thanks all for joining, and take care. Bye.